I'm 38, married for 12 years, and I thought my life was normal. Not perfect, but stable. My wife, Laura, and I met in college, and we built a life together in the suburbs. 2 kids, a dog, a mortgage, the usual. I worked a desk job in IT, and she's a teacher. We argued sometimes, but nothing I thought was too serious. I trusted her. I trusted us. Life felt predictable, but in a good way. Our weekends were filled with soccer games, movie nights, and the occasional dinner out. I would have described us as solid. There were minor annoyances, her occasional nagging about chores, my habit of forgetting birthdays of distant relatives, but nothing that shook the foundation of our marriage. Honestly, I had no reason to suspect anything. If anything, I'd been complacent. I assumed Laura was happy, that I was a good husband, that our relationship was the sort of quietly dependable thing people wrote about in marriage advice blogs. But looking back now, maybe I was naive. Maybe I ignored the little things that should have raised red flags. I brushed off her occasional secretive texts, late-night phone calls, and the way she laughed at messages she said were stupid memes. At the time, I told myself I was overthinking. I had a family to keep together, bills to pay, life to live. I never imagined that everything I thought was safe and secure would come crashing down because of a single message, one that wasn't even meant for me. Before that message, everything felt normal enough that I didn't notice the cracks. Laura and I had been close, or so I thought. We shared routines, inside jokes, plans for vacations, weekend BBQs with friends. I thought we were partners in every sense, the kind of couple people quietly envy because we seemed so ordinary and solid. She had a group of friends she went on trips with every year. I never thought much of it. Girls' trip, she called it. I assumed it was harmless fun, a break from our family chaos. And I encouraged it, told her she deserved to relax, to unwind, to enjoy herself. Maybe that's where I started failing, handing her freedom while not questioning what was happening in those moments. There were small things I dismissed. Texts that she hurriedly deleted when I came into the room. Phone calls she stepped out to take. Occasional late nights at work, she claimed, even though she was supposed to be off. At the time, I told myself she deserved privacy. I told myself trust was key. And I wanted to believe that. I really did. But a nagging unease had been creeping in for months. I couldn't shake that feeling, that tiny voice in the back of my head that whispered maybe not everything was as it seemed. I didn't act. I didn't confront. I didn't snoop. I just ignored it. I thought I was being mature, fair, trusting. Looking back now, I realize I was being blind. And that blindness, I would soon learn, had consequences that would hit me harder than I could have imagined. It all started the night Laura was on one of her annual trips with her friends. I was at home, working late on a project, and I got a notification on my phone, a message from her. Except, it wasn't really for me. It read something like, "Can't wait to see you tonight, it's going to be amazing, winky face." At first I froze. My stomach dropped. I thought maybe it was a joke, a missent message meant for one of her friends. I even tried to rationalize it. She's probably just sending a playful text to her friend in the group chat, I told myself. But then I saw the name attached. It wasn't a friend. It was a man I didn't know. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. My mind raced through everything, the late nights, the secretive phone calls, the laughter she tried to hide. All the little things I'd dismissed before came rushing back, flashing in painful clarity. I didn't reply. I couldn't. I just sat there, heart hammering, staring at that text over and over, hoping it was some kind of terrible mistake. And that was when the first wave of doubt hit me, creeping in like ice water. Everything I thought I knew about our marriage, about trust, about our life together, it all suddenly felt fragile, like it could shatter with the next message, the next call, the next truth I wasn't ready to face. I knew deep down that this wasn't going to be something I could ignore. But I also knew that confronting it would change everything. The next day, I couldn't focus on anything. Every message notification made my chest tighten. I tried calling her, but she didn't pick up. She was on vacation, she said later. Busy with the group. I told myself to wait, to give her the benefit of the doubt. But deep down, I already knew. I didn't have to wait long. That evening, she FaceTimed me, and I could tell immediately something was off. Her eyes were too bright, her smile too forced. I asked casually, "Everything okay?" And she laughed nervously, a little too loudly. Then I said it, more like a whisper to myself than a question. "Who's the text from?" The color drained from her face. She stuttered. "Text? What text?" "I saw it last night," I said, holding the phone in front of me like evidence in a trial. "The one you sent, that wasn't meant for me." Her composure cracked. And in that moment it all spilled out. She admitted it. She had met someone on the trip. It was just a fling. She hadn't planned for it to go further, but it had. Her voice broke. She cried. She begged me to understand, to forgive, saying it didn't mean anything, that it was a mistake. I felt like the floor had dropped from beneath me. My hands shook. My vision blurred. I couldn't process words, only the reality of betrayal. All the memories of our life together suddenly felt tainted, like someone had scribbled over every happy moment with a permanent black marker. I just sat there. Silent. Numb. And the person I trusted more than anyone in the world had shattered the foundation of my life in one careless, intimate confession. I don't even remember how long we stayed on that call. I just remember feeling like my chest was collapsing under the weight of something I couldn't breathe through. Disbelief first. I kept thinking, no, this can't be happening. She can't do this to me. Not now, not after everything. Anger came next, sharp and burning. I wanted to scream, throw things, hit something, anything. But I couldn't. I was trapped inside my own mind, watching this woman I loved, my partner, cry on the screen, and feeling utterly powerless. I cycled through every possible emotion in minutes. Heartbreak. Shame, because how had I not seen it coming? Confusion, how could she do this, and why? Resentment. I remembered the late nights, the hurried deletions, the little white lies I had brushed off. They weren't little anymore. They were pieces of a puzzle I'd ignored, and now the picture was horrifyingly clear. And then there was guilt. I blamed myself. Was I not enough? Did I fail her? Was I too busy, too dull, too ordinary? The questions were endless and cruel, looping in my mind. I wanted to confront her in person, to shake her, to demand the truth again, but I was terrified. Not just of her answers, but of the consequences. The kids, our home, our family, everything we built felt like it could collapse in seconds. By the time I hung up, I was a hollow version of myself. I was still alive, but I didn't recognize the person I had become. And the worst part? This wasn't a nightmare I could wake up from, it was real. When Laura got home from her trip, the air between us was unbearable. I couldn't even look at her without remembering that text, that confession, that moment my world split in two. I tried to speak calmly at first, but calm didn't last long. "Why?" I finally asked, voice tight. "Why would you do this? Were we not enough?" She froze, tears welling up. "It wasn't like that," she whispered. "It was just a mistake. I didn't mean for it to happen." But words felt hollow. I couldn't grasp how months, or maybe just moments, of desire could outweigh 12 years of life together. I tried to ask questions, simple ones. When? How often? Did it mean anything? Did you love me? Each answer was a mixture of denial, justification, and apologies, but it never felt like the truth I needed. The arguments spiraled. Yelling. Crying. Accusations. I told her about the phone calls, the messages she deleted, the late nights. She tried to rationalize, to explain away every suspicious detail, and part of me wanted to believe her. But the other part, the part that still held that message in my mind, couldn't. She begged me to forgive her, said it was a lapse, that it wouldn't happen again, that she still loved me. And I wanted to believe her. I wanted to salvage something. But trust, once broken like this, isn't easy to repair. Not overnight. Not even in months. We ended that night in silence, the kind of silence that feels heavier than shouting. I was furious, heartbroken, and completely unsure if we could survive this. In the days that followed, I felt like I was living in two realities at once. On the outside, I was going through the motions, work, kids, errands, but inside, everything was fractured. Every laugh, every hug, every "I love you" felt contaminated by what I now knew. I couldn't trust my own mind. I kept replaying the message, her confession, her tears. Guilt gnawed at me constantly. Part of me kept thinking, did I fail her? Did I push her away without realizing it? Could I have prevented this somehow? And then rage would hit, sudden and sharp, over the unfairness of it all. The person I loved most had broken a sacred boundary, and yet I blamed myself for not noticing sooner. Sleep became a battlefield. Some nights I couldn't close my eyes for the fear of nightmares. Other nights I dreamed of confrontations, of screaming, of destruction, scenes that left me waking in sweat and tears. My appetite vanished, or I ate mindlessly just to feel something besides despair. Even daily life became a minefield. Every glance at her, every casual touch, every smile she gave me, I questioned it. Was it genuine? Was it manipulation? Was she planning the next betrayal? I felt like a stranger in my own home. And yet, despite everything, I still loved her. I hated that love, because it left me vulnerable to more pain, more heartbreak. But it was there, stubborn and cruel, a reminder that even the deepest wounds can't erase what we once cherished. The aftermath of Laura's betrayal rippled through every corner of my life. Our marriage was never the same. Trust, that fragile thread holding us together, had been severed. I found myself double-checking her phone, analyzing her words, overthinking every interaction. The easy companionship we once had was replaced by tension, suspicion, and an unspoken weight that pressed on us constantly. The kids sensed it too. They didn't understand the details, of course, but they noticed the quiet fights, the icy silences, the tears I tried to hide. I hated that I couldn't shield them from this. I hated that my heartbreak was now part of their world. Friends noticed changes too. I withdrew from social events, avoided shared dinners, and smiled less. People asked if everything was okay, and I lied. I didn't want to admit the truth, the embarrassment, the shame of having your spouse cheat, of feeling like your life had unraveled in private, while everyone else saw the same old happy family. Even work suffered. I was distracted, irritable, and exhausted. Meetings blurred together. Deadlines slipped. My focus, my drive, everything I relied on, was shattered by the constant mental churn of betrayal and what-ifs. And the worst part? The realization that some scars might never heal. Even if we stayed together, even if she swore it would never happen again, a part of me knew I would always wonder. Always question. Always feel the ghost of that text hovering over us, a silent witness to the life we once had and the one that had been broken. After the initial chaos, we tried. We went to counseling, attended marriage workshops, and spent long evenings talking, sometimes shouting, sometimes crying, sometimes sitting in silence. I wanted to believe it could work. I wanted to salvage what we had spent over a decade building. At first, it felt promising. Laura was apologetic, genuinely remorseful at times. She would hold my hand, brush my hair back, and whisper that she loved me. I wanted to trust her again. I wanted to forgive her. I really did. But every little trigger became a minefield. A phone beep would send my heart racing. A message she deleted or hid would ignite panic. I found myself rereading conversations, scrutinizing her behavior, replaying moments from her trip in my mind, over and over. The smallest gestures, her laughter at a joke, a casual hug for the kids, sometimes filled me with doubt rather than comfort. I tried to push those feelings down. I told myself therapy would help. I told myself patience and effort could rebuild trust. But every attempt was exhausting. Every reconciliation came with a cost: my peace of mind. The anger, the heartbreak, the fear of being blindsided again, they were always there, lurking beneath the surface, waiting for a small crack to burst through. Even when we laughed, even when we shared a quiet evening together, part of me felt hollow. The intimacy we once had was gone, replaced by vigilance and anxiety. I realized that reconciliation wasn't just about wanting to forgive, it was about whether the trust could ever truly return. Even months after her confession, the doubt never left me. It was like a shadow that followed me everywhere, whispering at the edges of my mind. Every time her phone buzzed, my heart would race. Every time she stepped out for a moment, a flood of questions would hit me. Who was she with? What was she doing? I hated that I felt this way. I hated myself for not being able to fully trust her, for replaying the same moments in my head over and over, dissecting every word, every glance, every silence. I hated that I wanted to forgive her but couldn't stop imagining the worst. Even intimacy became complicated. Touches that once brought comfort now came with hesitation, memories of betrayal creeping in. I found myself pulling back, trying to shield myself from potential pain. Love was still there, stubbornly clinging, but it was tangled with fear, anger, and mistrust. Friends and family noticed. They'd ask why I seemed distant or quiet, and I'd lie, saying I was stressed at work or tired. I couldn't explain that my life had been quietly dismantled by someone I loved more than anything. I started questioning not just her loyalty, but my judgment, my ability to read people, my worth. If the person closest to me could betray me, who else might? Could I ever truly let my guard down again? And yet, some part of me still clung to hope, the foolish, stubborn part that wanted to believe in a future where the pain faded and life felt safe again. One of the hardest parts of all this has been watching the fallout in our family, especially the kids. They're young, 9 and 6, but they pick up on more than we realize. Tension in the house, whispers behind closed doors, angry murmurs. I could see the confusion in their eyes, the little questions they didn't ask out loud. I tried to keep things normal for them. Breakfasts, bedtime stories, soccer practice. I forced the routine like it was armor. But normalcy felt hollow. I was constantly aware of how fragile everything had become. Even small arguments with Laura now felt amplified. I could see it in the kids' reactions, the way they would retreat, stay quiet, or look at me and Laura like we were suddenly strangers. Extended family also noticed changes. Holidays were tense, conversations awkward. My parents asked why she seemed distant. Her parents asked why I seemed so quiet. We lied to them, as everyone always does in these situations, but I hated it. I hated the deception, the burden of protecting them from the truth while the truth ate me alive. Even the kids' friends' parents noticed. Casual comments, offhand jokes, they stung more than they should have. Every day felt like navigating a minefield, trying to maintain the facade of a happy family while the foundation was crumbling beneath us. I realized something painful. Betrayal doesn't just affect the two people involved. It ripples outward, touching everyone connected to you, leaving marks on people who have no idea what actually happened but can sense the damage anyway. Living through this has taken a toll on me in ways I never imagined. Anxiety became a constant companion. My chest would tighten for no reason, my stomach churned at the slightest hint of tension, and sleep was almost impossible. Nights were the worst, lying in bed next to her, staring at the ceiling, replaying the message, her confession, the what-ifs, looping endlessly. Depression followed soon after. I felt hollow, detached from life, from my family, even from myself. Work became harder. I couldn't focus, couldn't motivate myself. Things I once enjoyed felt meaningless. Even the kids' laughter, which used to bring me joy, sometimes felt like a cruel reminder of what had been broken. I started questioning my own self-worth constantly. If she could do this, did it mean I wasn't enough? Was I too boring, too predictable, too ordinary? Those thoughts were like daggers, twisting inside me with every interaction. I couldn't escape them. I even began withdrawing from friends and family. I didn't want to burden anyone with the weight of my pain, and I certainly didn't want anyone to know the shame of being cheated on. So I became quiet, irritable, and isolated, a shell of the person I used to be. Therapy helped a little, but the betrayal left a permanent scar. I realized that healing wouldn't be linear, it would be messy, painful, and unpredictable. Every time I thought I was okay, a memory, a glance, or even a sound could pull me right back into that abyss of heartbreak. Over time, our marriage changed in ways I couldn't have predicted. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the way it lingered, the invisible wall that grew between us. Even when we were physically together, emotionally we were often worlds apart. Conversations became measured, careful, sometimes hollow. I watched her laugh, touch the kids, move through our shared life, and a part of me couldn't fully connect anymore. I noticed myself holding back more and more. I stopped sharing thoughts, stopped being spontaneous, stopped trusting that what I said or felt would be received honestly. Intimacy became mechanical, almost perfunctory, because every time I tried to get close, my mind would circle back to the memory of that message, that confession, that fissure in our life. Laura, too, seemed different. She was apologetic, yes, but she also became defensive at times. I could sense her guilt in everything she did. Sometimes it made her cling to me, other times it made her distant, avoiding any conflict that might dredge up the past. Even small, everyday moments became charged. A laugh at a joke, a casual smile, a glance at her phone, they all carried suspicion. I realized that the betrayal didn't just change our relationship, it rewired it. The trust, the comfort we had once taken for granted, none of that existed in the same way anymore. We were still married, still living under the same roof, still raising our kids, but the marriage I knew, the one I thought was unbreakable, had quietly, irreversibly shifted. It's been over a year since the betrayal, and we're still technically together. But the truth is, nothing feels fully resolved. We've survived, yes, but at a cost I'm still grappling with. The trust one once had is fractured, maybe beyond repair. Every interaction carries a quiet tension, every conversation an undercurrent of suspicion. We've tried routines, therapy, and even little rituals to rebuild connection, but the cracks remain. I catch myself watching her closely, analyzing her words, noticing every subtle behavior. I hate that I do it, but I can't stop. She, too, seems to live with guilt that sometimes manifests as defensiveness or excessive reassurance. Neither of us is fully comfortable in our own marriage anymore. Even the kids are affected. They sense the undercurrent, the quiet hesitations, the unspoken truths. I try to shield them, but the damage is subtle and ongoing. Holidays, family events, casual conversations, they all feel heavier, loaded with tension that wasn't there before. I've realized something painful: not all betrayals end with closure. Not all scars heal, and some wounds linger silently, reshaping life in ways you can't undo. We coexist, we function, we survive, but we are not the same. And part of me wonders if we ever will be. I still love her, in the quiet, stubborn way that refuses to vanish entirely. But I also live with the knowledge that love alone isn't always enough to undo what's been broken. And that reality is one of the hardest things I've ever had to accept. Looking back, I still struggle to put my feelings into words. Betrayal has a way of rewiring your heart, your mind, your entire sense of what normal means. I thought I knew love, trust, marriage, but this experience taught me how fragile those things can be, even when you believe they're solid. I've learned that forgiveness isn't always about erasing the pain, it's about surviving it, carrying it in a way that doesn't destroy you completely. I've learned that trust, once broken, can be repaired partially, but it leaves a residue that never fully disappears. Some days I feel like I've moved forward, other days, the memory of that text, that night, and that confession crashes over me like a wave I can't swim against. I also realize how easily denial and complacency can blind you. I ignored the little signs because I didn't want to believe something terrible could happen. I convinced myself everything was fine until it wasn't. That lesson is bitter, but it's real. I'm still here. The kids are thriving. Laura and I navigate life together, carefully, cautiously. And yet there's a part of me that will always carry this scar. A reminder that love is complex, people are flawed, and sometimes, life doesn't offer clean endings. If there's one thing I hope others take from my story, it's this: notice the small signs, trust your instincts, and understand that even when life seems normal, it can shift in an instant. And when it does, there's no easy fix, only learning to live with what's left.